Welcome back to my channel, guys. On this channel, I get quite a few comments from people who are asking me questions about where they should be studying archaeology at university, what programs are best, what qualifications they need, all that kind of stuff. And so I thought that for my video today, I would kind of take a lot of these questions and put them into one video talking about recommendations or tips that I would have for people who want to study archaeology at a post-secondary level. For anyone who hasn't watched any of my other videos, I have an undergraduate degree in Near Eastern and Classical Archaeology from Wilfrid Laurier University in Canada and a Master's of Science in Human Osteoarchaeology from the University of Edinburgh. So I have two of the three degrees that you can get, and I'm going to be drawing a lot on my experiences that I've had to answer some of these questions for everyone. The thing is when I get these questions, they can be a bit difficult because people are asking me about some very specific stuff that I can't really comment on because I don't have any direct experience with it. So I'm just kind of trying to keep this as general as possible. I know that previously I've talked about how to work in commercial archaeology nowadays, you don't necessarily need a university degree. And while that is currently true right now, especially in the UK, that is not necessarily always going to be true. And I would say that having a degree is beneficial, if not necessary, especially if you don't have perhaps the money to be able to afford to go to university, or perhaps the environment doesn't really suit you in terms of how you learn things well. I'm also a bit biased in some ways because I really loved my experience at university and I look upon those years with a lot of very rose-tinted nostalgia, I would think. I can't really believe that it's been so long since I started and finished both my programs and how long I've been working for. The time has flown by far too fast. I found both of my experiences to be very positive, not only for my career, but just for my life in general. And I have so many friends that I still connect with from university, and I really did feel like that was a place where I found my people, so to speak. So I mean, personally, I would recommend it if it's within your means to go. But if you are looking to have a career in commercial archaeology and say it's not for you, it is absolutely not necessary as long as you are willing to work hard and put the effort in. So in terms of when you should be starting to think about what you want to do, I would generally recommend around 15 to 17. Basically, the year before your final year of school should be when you're kind of considering what you want to be doing after school. And a lot of the times you will be prompted about this by wherever you're going to school, but just in case you haven't, that is really the key time that you want to be looking at what you want to be doing, kind of seeing where your interests lie. So if your interests happen to lie in archaeology, that's great, but I would also recommend kind of trying to figure out where it lies specifically within archaeology, because it's quite a huge umbrella and there's a lot of stuff that fits under it. So you might find that you really are interested in Egyptology, which was my initial interest in archaeology, or you're really into the classical world, so stuff like Greece and Rome. You might be really interested in the prehistoric period. You might be very interested in archaeological techniques and the things that we use to find out all of our information. So I would suggest trying to figure out where your interest lies in a more broad sense when you're looking to look at university programs. You should be looking for programs that have kind of the keywords of what your interest lies in. So for me, particularly because my interest was in ancient Egypt, I looked for programs that focused on Egyptology and stuff. And where I ended up studying at Laurier, initially I started out as a Near Eastern student, which meant that my time was pretty equally divided between Egypt and Mesopotamia in terms of my courses. So just doing a simple Google search for programs, even within that, I would look to see what kind of classes are available within that program. And usually you can find this information online, either under the department that the degree is housed in. They will have a list of all the different degrees that they offer, and then within that they'll show you all the modules and classes that you can take. So looking just at the title of the course and seeing if that's something that you're interested in learning about can go a long way to helping you determine where you want to go. The second thing that you should be considering when you're looking at a program is your career goals. Do you have to necessarily decide where absolutely you want to go? Will you never be able to change further down the road? No. But it's always good to kind of have that idea and to also keep that in mind when you're looking at programs. So if you're someone that really sees themselves going into academia, so becoming a professor at a university and teaching at the higher levels of education, then obviously you also want to be considering schools that are more prestigious. So something that is like a highly ranked school, a highly ranked program, is a well-known name that will benefit you later when you're trying to apply for other degrees or other jobs, is having a well-recognized school attached to you. So places that I'm kind of thinking of when I say this is like, you know, in the UK, Cambridge and Oxford are the two big ones that everyone always thinks about, but as well, the archaeology programs here at like Sheffield and Bradford for a long time have been very highly regarded, although since I'm a bit out of the loop, I don't know if that's still the case. In Canada, when I went to Laurier, we were a very highly regarded program for archaeology, at least that I was aware of, although I would say that that's probably changed since I left, because I know there have been a lot of cuts to the department since I have been there. If you're someone that, like myself, is very interested in commercial work, I would recommend going to a program that is going to require you to do a longer period of field work, because that field experience is so integral and so important for you to be able to develop your skills so that you kind of already have them when you're applying for jobs and you can use that on your CV. So what I'm talking about here is that most archaeology programs will require you to do some aspect of fieldwork experience during the program, but every school obviously offers something a little bit different. Some schools will only require you to maybe do 2 weeks of field work. Some of them might allow you to, instead of going in the field, they do lab work instead, so you're working on stuff in the school, you're not actually leaving and going out in the field and digging. I would recommend trying to pick somewhere that has a field school from 4 to 6 weeks. Mine was 6 weeks and I went 3 years in a row, and I got academic credit for it as well. Now, if you have an archaeology degree, that does not necessarily mean that you absolutely have to become either a professor or a commercial archaeologist. There are a lot of people that go into museums, a lot of people go into teaching, so becoming history teachers at high school or lower levels. In this case, you don't necessarily have to worry so much about the quality, quote unquote, of your university in terms of its prestigiousness or the fieldwork aspect. And you can maybe, if you're interested in everything and you're just interested in archaeology in general, can then maybe go for a program is a bit more generic in what it's teaching you about rather than specific. So once you've found a couple different programs that you're interested in, how do you proceed in figuring out where you want to apply and potentially accept if you are given an offer? So you can't just kind of do this arbitrarily. You need to kind of scope out where you want to go. In my personal experience, I applied to, I think, 2 or 3 different universities. I can't even remember the other 2. And Laurier had an open day that I was actually able to go to, and the department had a stand set up. I got to talk to a couple of the students. They were telling me all about the field school, and that is really what convinced me that I wanted to go to Laurier. So I would definitely recommend, if it's within your means, to go to an open day and chat to professors, students, whatnot, to see what their impressions of the program are. Although I will say that obviously they're there to promote a program on an open day, so they're not going to tell you negative stuff. If you can't attend an open day, say the school's in another country and you can't afford to fly there, there are other ways of kind of getting in touch. So primarily nowadays it's email. If you can email either the course director or say there's a professor that you are particularly interested in working with, you can always email them with some questions that you have about the program. A lot of the time programs will have student societies connected to them, so you could always try connecting with the society to speak to students who are going through the program and see what they have to say about it. So when I was applying for my master's program, I applied to 3 separate universities, all in the UK, because I knew that I really wanted to study there for my degree, because I just kind of wanted to get out of Canada, really. But at the time, I couldn't just hop over there and do a tour of all the different universities that I was interested in. So what I did instead was I contacted the course coordinators, and I had a list of questions that I had for all of them that they got back, and then I kind of made my decision based off of that and the fact that I wanted to live in Scotland. So examples of some of the questions that I asked were if there were any major changes planned for the program in the upcoming year, because obviously everything that you're looking at online is for that current year and things can change. if there's going to be any major changes to faculty, especially important if you have a particular person that you would like to work with, asking questions about their field school, you know, how much does it cost, that kind of stuff. Once you've kind of picked your programs that you want to apply for, because I would always advise applying for more than one, don't put all your eggs in one basket. You want to make sure that you have the right grades to get in. Different universities in different countries, they all have different expectations for the kind of grades that they are looking for to admit people to their programs. Sometimes they even have like a quota of people that they have to admit. And so you want to be establishing what your grades need to be in order to get accepted. As well, you need to look at what kind of courses you need to in order to be accepted. So for my personal program, I needed to have like a 60% pass in grade 11 math. I needed to have certain grades in history and English in order to get accepted. So I made sure that I took the classes necessary that I would have needed in order to get into my program, and I worked extra hard to make sure that I had not only the grade average but the class requirements in order to get in. And it'll be a similar thing here in the UK with the A levels, which I don't really know anything about them, but again, look into this sooner rather than later. Some schools will also sometimes have qualifications that they want you to have, or certain parts of their process that you need to look at for admissions. So I think I did very briefly when I was considering undergrads look at Brown University down in the US, because they have a very prestigious archaeology program, and they had certain requirements where you were having to do with languages and fluency in languages, which kind of put me off, even though I ended up doing languages at my other program anyways. But in addition to ancient languages, you were required to do stuff like learning German or French. You also need to think about essays that they might want you to be writing for the part of the admissions process. So, you know, if essay writing is not your forte, you probably shouldn't be doing a university program in archaeology, because that is a lot of what you do. But in addition to the university itself, you also want to be looking at the bigger picture of where you're going to be spending 4, 1, 2, however many years you're going to be at university. You want to be looking at the area that you're going to be in. So there are some places that, you know, they have a university there, but the city that it's in is like really small and it's really inaccessible. So that is something to definitely consider where you're going to be applying. Is it somewhere that you're going to want to be spending a couple years of your life? You also want to be looking at how expensive it is to live in that place, because while, you know, many universities will offer a first-year student accommodation, like you get to stay in the dorms and stuff like that, and some universities will offer that all the way through. A lot of students tend to move out of their dorms and move into other student housing that's independent of the university for a lot of their degrees. So like I did that, you know, I spent 1 year in a dorm, and then the next couple years I spent time with roommates in kind of like a student style apartment, and as well as some time at home. So you want to be thinking about how much money that's going to cost you later down the line. And cost is obviously also a really big thing to be considering. So, you know, in the US, these things are astronomical. Canada is, you know, a bit more reasonable, and the UK, somewhere like Scotland, if you're Scottish, you get to go to school for free, which is amazing. You know, in England, tuitions is on the rise. And additionally, if you are looking at going to a school that is international, it's not in the country of which you are from, you need to think about international student fees, because they are nuts. I paid almost double for my master's than native people to the UK. And that is a significant amount of debt. So if you are going to be incurring debt by going to university, but you don't, say, have a lot of money on a loan, or you don't want to rack up that much debt, you need to adjust where you're looking for within your price range, so to speak. There's always scholarships and, you know, student loans and stuff like that available for you, but, you know, competition for scholarships is quite fierce, and if you're not the top of the pack, you don't have as good a chance at getting them. So it's not that you shouldn't apply, but you need to be realistic about your chances of being able to win, and not relying on you winning as being a key part of whether or not you're going to attend that university. So yeah, that's just kind of a basic summary of things that you need to think about when you're considering going into archaeology, where you would like to study archaeology, and tips for considering specifically where you're going to be applying. I can't really comment too much on the actual application process because it does vary from school to school. The only advice that I would give is, you know, don't leave it to the last minute. You want to make sure that you have a good product that you're going to give to them that is representative of your potential. If you are going to have to write something, you want to make sure that you actually research the program and the people that work there and tailor whatever you're writing to that. Actually put some effort into it if you want to get accepted. I'm always happy to answer questions to people, but I hope that you understand that because I have a very limited experience and that it only really applies to me, I can't be very specific for a lot of questions that people have, and I hope that you don't find it frustrating if I just tell you to Google something, because a lot of the times that is the answer. If it is something that you have that's a really specific query, I'll either email the school or try and speak to somebody who is actually in the program, because they will be able to give you much better advice than I will. And as far as I'm aware, schools and people are always very happy to answer those kinds of questions, so don't be shy to ask them. As I said previously, I loved my years at university. It was an amazing experience for me, not just for my career, but for my personal development as a person. There are so many things that you learn in university, so many friendships that you make that are just really integral to the rest of your life and for developing your characters. But obviously, if it's not something that you are particularly keen for, don't feel pressured to go. There are other ways to get into something like commercial archaeology than just the university route. As per usual, all my social media is down in the description box below if you'd like to follow me on there. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please put them in the comment section and I will do my best to answer for you. I try to answer every single comment. I'm not anywhere near the threshold where I can't manage to answer all of them anymore. And I also just recently crossed the 900 subscriber mark, which is like, thank you so much guys for continuing to support me. Maybe this year I'll actually reach 1,000 and be able to monetize my videos again, even though I don't actually really make money from monetization. But anyway, thank you so much guys for watching and I will see you next time. Bye!